Pleasure and something of a surprise for me to rise and speak on the legislation bill and its introduction. Mr. Speaker, while the nature of this bill has occasioned some hilarity because people consider it to be somewhat technical and dull, can I say that as somebody who has never had legal training but who has had the privilege of serving on the Regulations Review Committee for 2 years in my first term in Parliament, while it may say more about me than anything else, I actually find this quite interesting. And the thing that I find interesting for the Minister, who may take note of this, is that while Labor is going to support the bill to select committee, I personally, and the Labor Party shares this concern, have a concern about the changes to the disallowance mechanisms or any proposed change to disallowance mechanisms. Now, Mr. Speaker, I had occasion to swat up the disallowance provisions, and being something of a girly swat, I found the Regulations Disallowance Act of 1989 and the provisions surrounding it in the course of my work on the Regulations Review Committee. And the disallowance provision is Parliament's nuclear deterrent. It is the final shot against regulations that can be drawn up by a minister, approved by Cabinet and signed off by the Governor-General. And regulations go to the Regulations Review Committee for scrutiny. They don't come to Parliament. They go to the Regulations Review Committee, and the Regulations Review Committee decides on the fate of those regulations. And I had a couple of years of poring through things that people would find, if they were not intimately acquainted with that particular subject, quite dull. And we had lots and lots of civil aviation regulations, for example, to pore over. And why is that important? Well, let's just look at the news. Look at the news in the last few days and the importance of the Civil Aviation Authority and the importance of the regulations, which might even detail the extent to which a pilot may take off at Queenstown Airport in a specified time before dark. Now, this is the trivia upon which people's lives hang from time to time. The particular instance of where I needed to go and investigate the disallowance regulations and provision came from a case which will be familiar to the National Party, and it was about the name of assistant nurses and enrolled nurses, and the fact that the Nursing Council wished to change the name of enrolled nurses to assistant nurses. And that occasioned, because it was something done outside of legislation and it was done by a statutory body but was affected by regulation, was something that didn't ever come to Parliament. And there was a moment, I think it was in 2006, when it looked as if I might have to get up in this House and exercise the provisions of the disallowance legislation. And it only takes one Member of Parliament to do it, and if I went back to my notes in 2006, but it only takes one Member of Parliament who is a permanent member on the Regulations Review Select Committee to give notice, and then a regulation is automatically disallowed unless it is overturned within 21 days of a parliamentary sitting by virtue of debate. So if no member of Parliament actually got up and contested the disallowance of a regulation, then that regulation, as I understand it, would be disallowed and things changed without parliamentary scrutiny. And it's like the final strike. It is like a nuclear deterrent on regulations. And I think this area in particular, Mr. Speaker, requires careful consideration by Parliament, because we pride ourselves on being a very open and transparent democracy, and we are. We come second equal usually in the global transparency index that Transparency International does. We come second only to Iceland, and they might wish at the moment that they perhaps weren't quite as transparent as they are. But we have come second equal generally with Denmark or Finland in recent years. And that is something to be upheld, and that is something to be proud of. And we need to ensure that there is no provision that allows regulations to be changed through the measure of this bill without proper scrutiny, either by the Regulations Review Select Committee or by the House itself. So the disallowance provisions, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest
I regret to
need
advise
close
the member that
scrutiny.
I must interrupt the debate. It's gone 6 o'clock. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday, 3rd of August 2010. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, Paul Marier.